We are getting reaction from former One Direction members on the death of their bandmate Liam Payne. In a post on social media Thursday, the group said in part, quote, "We are devastated by the news of Liam's passing." They added they'll be taking time to grieve the loss of their brother and that they will miss him terribly. Police in Argentina say Payne died in Buenos Aires on Wednesday after falling from the third-floor balcony of a hotel. Authorities have not said whether the 31-year-old jumped from the balcony or fell by accident. Payne's autopsy revealed internal bleeding and 25 traumatic injuries as the cause of his death. Argentinian investigators say evidence collected from the scene indicates that Payne was alone at the time and possibly abusing drugs. CBS News correspondent Lily Luciano has been following this story for us. She joins me now in studio. Lily, good to see you here. What more do we know about the evidence found at the hotel? So we know that they did find drugs, alcohol, multiple broken items in the hotel. There had been an incident, according to investigators there in the lobby of the hotel. It was interesting to listen to the 911 call that was made by an employee of the hotel who was calling 911 and saying specifically that there was somebody acting erratically, clearly or likely under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and that they were actually concerned about his safety because it seemed like they were concerned that he could either jump or fall. Clearly, the balcony door or something might have been open at the time, but he specifically addressed the employee of the hotel, which is one of the 5 people who were interviewed by prosecutors. They're treating this as an investigation into what they call dubious, which is kind of like investigating foul play, although they are being very clear that they don't believe anybody pushed him, that anybody was in the room. When he fell, one thing that the prosecutors said when they released this investigation, because they were part of the investigation along with police, what they published in this report that was published earlier today was that it seemed like he had fallen at a time when he might have been either unconscious or semi-conscious. So he didn't have any defensive wounds, and the way the body was found didn't seem like he tried to protect himself in any way. So it's possible that he was unconscious when he fell over. Do we know how much time lapsed between that 911 call and when he was found? And also, what do we know about what was going on in his life at the time? So he died at 5:07 Buenos Aires time, which is 4:07 our time. We know that the autopsy was done very late last night, and it was released pretty quickly. We're still waiting probably weeks for the toxicology exam. Police showed up pretty quickly thereafter, but it seems like not a lot of time went by before he actually fell, and they were expressing that concern. What was happening? He had been in Buenos Aires for 2 weeks. He had been there at a concert of his former One Direction bandmate, Niall Horan, who had played in Buenos Aires. He first apparently was with his partner, his girlfriend, but she returned to Miami on Saturday, to Florida, where I guess she lives, and he remained by himself. It sounds like during the day, things had been flowing normally. He had been posting in the earlier days from Buenos Aires, talking about, what a beautiful day it is here. He had been posting with his girlfriend. According to authorities there, they've interviewed 2 women who might have been around, not when he died, but earlier in the day. But there were indications that he had been acting erratically even before, while he was in the lobby. He had been struggling with drugs and alcohol. Last year, he published a video talking about the importance of sobriety to him. I mean, keep in mind, this is somebody who his first audition at the X Factor was when he was 14 years old. Wow, so young.
And then the band came together a couple of years after that. So, it's one of those extremely tragic stories of people who face fame so early.
His family is saying they'll remember him for his kind, funny, and brave soul. Lily Luciano, thank you.
Thank you.